Welcome back to Tiny Grimes Games, and I'm here with another Star Wars Destiny video. And today I bring you what I think is the best deck in the Awakening set for Star Wars Destiny. That's right, I've said it. I think this is the best deck. Now, I've actually been sitting on this deck for about 2 months now. Pretty much the day Awakening's released, my co-host of the Smuggler's Den, Jason Flanzer, and I played a game. And Jason was real new to the game and didn't really know the card pool that well. And he had this character suite. And I looked at him and I said, Jason, this does not look that good. And he was like, trust me, this deck is good. And he played me. It was very good. And I've changed many cards out since then. But the character suite itself was something I hadn't considered that much at the time. Because at that time, it was mostly Vader Raider that we were seeing, other 2-character decks, and Balatik just didn't sound that great, because if you concentrate just on his ability in a 2-character meta, it's not that good. Alright, so I played several games that tweaked the deck, found it to be nearly unbeatable, lose a game here and there to some serious god rolls, but pretty much shelved it. And you may be saying, Tiny, if you've had what you think is the best deck for several months, why haven't you shared it with us? And I'm going to tell you why. And it's kind of a selfish reason. It is not because I wanted to surprise everyone and win a bunch of tournaments with it. There are no tournaments. The real reason is because everyone had already dialed in on Jango Veers, and this deck is more annoying than Jango Veers. And Jango Veers already plagues the meta. I did not want the meta to be overrun with this deck. Fast forward, other people have been discovering it. People have been having success with it. So, if the secret's out, we might as well talk about why this deck is so bananas good. Okay, so the big thing is, to me it's better than Jango Veers. I've had a lot of people say, Tiny, what do you mean you've never played the Jango Veers deck? And the reason is, because I think this deck is better and I've been playing this instead. So essentially the advantage you have over Jango Veers is, Jango Veers has 19 health. It's incredibly fragile. One god roll from an opposing Jango Veers pretty much means you lose. A couple good rolls from any deck means you essentially lose. This deck has tons of survivability. We're looking at 25 health here over 3 characters. So the F11 blaster and the holdout rifle, which are already good, become so much better when you have 3 characters to bounce them around. Being able to put a couple redeploy weapons on Balatik, make him the target early so Jango doesn't die. When he does die, weapons go over to Jango. That is just incredibly powerful. Basically, any deck that can take the attention off Jango for even a moment is so powerful. And a lot of people will go after Balatik, especially if they have a 3-character deck. They better go after Balatik. I've had games where I've reactivated him twice on the same turn against like maybe a Vader double trooper. You know, you kill a trooper, you re-roll Bala, he rolls a whole pile more damage, you kill the other trooper, you re-roll him again, and you do 4 damage to Vader. So it's a really good deck. What it doesn't have, though, is quite the explosiveness of Jango Veers. The dice on Veers are more damagey than what you tend to get out of Balatik. Even though you have the elite form, he does, you know, more of other things. Like, he has the focus side, which is really good, but it tends to lead to a little bit less explosive. So the way when I compare these 2 decks, I think of Jango Veers as like that glass cannon, fragile version of this deck. Yeah, it can be a little bit more explosive, but it's also way easier to beat. This deck is really hard to beat. Alright, so let's look at the deck. And in many ways, it's going to look a lot like Jango Veers. Let's start with the weapon suite, and here, it's basically the Jango Veers deck, right? You've got jetpacks, holdout blasters, rifles, and blaster pistols, all in Jango Veers. I have a thermal detonator because, well, if you can catch a deck where it's got 3 guys out and blow up for 3 damage each, that's really good. It's really strong for handling like those 4-character decks that every now and then you see. It's just a nice bailout card. 9 times out of 10, it's a reroll. But in this game, I feel like if you have a card that does a lot against a deck that is bad for you, it is worth having. Now, having said that, it might just be better to replace it with a dodge or something like that. That's entirely possible. But I do like having the option to do a lot of damage. There's not much to say about these weapons. They're the 4 viable weapons that are available to you. They are all good. 2 of them have redeploy, which is crazy when you have 3 characters. Another thing I love about this deck is how much removal it has. I mean, it's got 2 electric shocks, 2 he doesn't like use, the best defense, unpredictable flank, reversal, it has it all. Having 3 characters allows you to run flank, which is pretty amazing. And if you want, you can even tweak this deck further, minimizing the damage it does and upping the amount of removal you have. You could add a second best defense. You could add a second flank. You could add whatever the name of that card is, that cannon fodder. There you go, the card that I barely ever play. There's so many options for removal in this deck. It's really up to you how you want to optimize it. I mean, my lists have been changing quite often as to exactly which cards I'm using in this slot. One area where this deck has changed is with the evolution of Dug In. I never really thought Dug In was all that great. Jango Veer's decks really proved to me that Dug In is fantastic, and so that's gone in the deck. And alongside Hunker Down, you now have 4 really good sources of shields. You might say Hunker Down and Dug In don't seem to go together because one wants you to play fast and get the battlefield, and one slows you down. However, what I found with Hunker Down and what I found with a lot of Jango is people will try to outlast you. And what I mean is they'll put an upgrade on their guy. You'll upgrade Jango. And they'll just go like, pass. I'm not going to let you do Jango shenanigans for free. And so to be able to go like, okay, Hunker Down, pass. Activate Hunker Down, pass. It's like, well, I already got a shield. If I pass and we do this again, I get another upgrade on Jango, I get another shield. Hunker Down, while it does sort of work against Dug In, just works really well in a Jango deck where passing becomes a real issue. One of the places where this deck excels over a Jango Veer's deck is its ability to have damage out of hand. So both decks, of course, are going to run backup muscle. If you're running yellow and you are not running backup muscle, seriously, what have you been doing with your life? Maybe you need to update it. It's just that good. But what it does allow you to run is Fight Dirty. Fight Dirty is the dirtiest card in the game. If you have your double Balatik dice out there, and then you respond to their roll with your Jango, you can just get rid of those 3 dice and do 3 damage with Fight Dirty, no matter what you rolled. That's an incredibly powerful tool to have at your disposal. So basically, anytime you go first, if you have Fight Dirty, it's 3 damage if you want it. Maybe you don't need it. Maybe you roll damage with Bala and damage with Jango and you save it for next time. Maybe you put a couple of upgrades. Maybe you've got a jetpack and an On the Hunt out, and now you get to Fight Dirty for 5. It becomes this really ludicrous card in this deck that is almost not fair, and it's really hard to play around. Like, how do you play around the fact that they can either do damage with their dice, the old-fashioned way of resolving, or just chuck them at your face? It also is able to use Arm to the Teeth very well. Since we have 3 characters, you know, there's a lot of spots where, like, Jango might die, and you have 1 redeploy on him, and 2 others that are going to go away. It's really not that bad to just Arm to the Teeth, chuck the 2 at somebody, the redeploy weapon goes to another guy, you still have 2 more guys. Arm to the Teeth ends up being this card that gets some value in this deck, and I really like it. Now we've got some sort of flex slots of just like cards that are good. On the Hunt is a great card. Like, if you're not running On the Hunt in this meta, I don't know what you're doing, to be honest. I mean, being able to remove shields from a character in a Dug-In meta is just absolutely critical, and it's also a control card. You can pay a resource and pull off whatever die you want. You go first, or and better yet, they roll out their Force user with Force Throw. Force Throw comes up, it becomes a special, and you go, okay, that's cool. I will respond with Jango. Roll On the Hunt comes up with its special. I will now control your Force Throw special. Womp womp. That can be an incredibly powerful tool. Tactical Mastery is a real flex spot in this deck. It's come out, it's gone in. It's just a really good card. The problem is, it's just Stormtrooper. If Stormtrooper dies, then it's worthless. Positive side, Stormtrooper is usually the last one left. But you're looking at a board. Balatik, Jango. Scary. Stormtrooper. The dude just rolls misses. I mean, come on. Who cares about a little Stormtrooper? Oh, I left him alive and I got Tactical Mastery. Whoops. Tactical Mastery is just a great card with Jango. You can do things like roll Jango. Didn't roll that well. well, I'll Tactical Mastery now, and I'll do a reroll, and then go ahead and resolve the dice then. There's just a lot of ways to really get a lot of good value out of Tactical Mastery. So it's a great card. I think it fits well in the deck. As far as battlefields are concerned, I've been running the Rebel War Room. With this particular deck, it's not quite as fast as Jango Veers. It's not as single-minded, like I'm just going to roll damage, and then I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to resolve, right? There's a lot of like, well, Politic rolled his focus side, so now I have to take an action to focus a die, and then I have to do this to do that. And you can win the battlefield. Like, this is a good battlefield for winning, but it's not a battlefield that says, win this battlefield or get wrecked, right? Like, Frozen Waste, which says, claim, remove a character die. That's a really double-sided battlefield. You better be winning it. This one just says, hey, this helps with a lot of your dice, and if you don't win it, it's not the end of the world. Some turns you're going to want to win it. You're really going to want your dug in, and when you do this, that lets you resolve that last die faster, and now you're going to be able to play your dug in or just go first, which can be really great with this deck. All right, so the bottom line is, I really think with Politic, Stormtrooper, and Jango Fett, we have the pinnacle of the Jango Fett decks. There are a lot of good Jango Fett decks. In fact, that's probably going to be a video for next week. The Jango Fett tier of the tier list. But I think this one gives you the most damage, the most tricks, the most staying power for your buck, right? It doesn't hit quite as hard as Jango Veers, but it's 3 characters. One of them might be scarier than Jango. I'm going to tell you this. You pretty much want to kill Jango anyway. If you're going for Politic first, it's dicey because Jango's ability is so good. If you have a lot of guys, if you're running a 3 or 4 character deck, maybe you do go for Politic first. If you only have 2 characters, you probably just want to kill Jango first. Unless they're just loading up Bala, then of course you're going to go for him. But bottom line is, super solid deck. I think it's really scary. I like it a lot. All right, well, here's the deck list. And while you're looking at it, remember, you can always go to brokenegggames.com and put TG Games in the discount code coupon to help out the channel. You can also go to my Patreon page, Tiny Grimes, where we're having a lot of discussions, talking decks, talking tier lists. Right now, we're specifically talking about Qui-Gon Rey and what might be the best build there. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time on Tiny Grimes Games.